if your beliefs about the Eucharist couldn't be mistaken for cannibalism, you don't believe what the early Christians believed. I love it when people accuse us of cannibalism for this simple reason. We know as a matter of historical fact that the early Christians were accused of cannibalism for their beliefs on the Eucharist. You can see this in an ancient document called Octavius by a guy by the name of Municius Felix, who is writing against the church and accusing Christians of being cannibals. And his claim is that they cover baby Jesus with grain and then eat him. So he's fairly confusing like the nativity scene and the Eucharist. But you can see like, oh, I see the real thing he's getting wrong here. And you can see how he kind of goes off the rails with it. So I would say this, like if your beliefs about the Eucharist couldn't be mistaken for cannibalism, then you don't believe what the early Christians believed. Like just as a matter of fact. Second, well, how do we know that this isn't cannibalism? Well, because cannibalism is destructive. Like only a pedant would call it cannibalism if you like chew your fingernails. Cannibalism is like destruction of a body. And that's not what's happening. Like when you receive the Eucharist, it isn't as if Jesus's body is now 4 grams lighter than it was before. That's not correct. And the reason for it has to do with the deeper theology of what's sometimes called substance and accidents. That Christ is bodily present in the Eucharist, but not in the same way that he's bodily present in heaven. He's bodily present in a different way. And so because of the difference in his mode of presence, what's happening there is not destroying his body and is not cannibalism. That's pretty deep waters theologically. St. Augustine, when he's looking at John 6:63, where Jesus says it is the spirit that gives life, the flesh is of no avail, he makes the point that it's not that Jesus's flesh is of no avail. That would be heretical. Jesus just said that he's going to give his flesh for the life of the world just a few verses earlier in John 6:51. Rather, it is our fleshly understanding that is of no avail. So thinking of eating Jesus's body and blood in the way you might think of eating a steak, that kind of corporeal understanding is not how to understand the Eucharist. And so Protestants raising this objection, ironically, are falling into the very thing Jesus warns not to do in John 6:63 by taking an overly human understanding of how we eat Jesus's flesh and drink his blood. That rather they need to be enlightened by the Spirit to say, yes, this truly is his flesh and blood, but the manner in which we receive him is not the same as the manner in which we, receive a taco.